Hello again, everybody. It's Les East with Brian Allee-Walsh from NewOrleans.com out at Saints Camp. It's Monday, 3 days before the preseason finale at Tennessee against the Titans. The big news coming out of camp today is really an injury update. We've got a slew of injuries to report. Let's lead right away with Jonathan Vilma, two-time Pro Bowl middle linebacker. Bring us up to date with him, Les.
Well, mostly the news sounds pretty good for the Saints. Vilma was not at practice today. He went to Philadelphia to see Dr. Myers, who's a Saints specialist on these types of injuries. Went there for a second opinion. It is a groin strain, not a sports hernia injury, according to Coach Sean Payton. Will not require surgery. Vilma due back in town Monday night. He'll begin treatment in hopes that he'll be ready for the regular season opener against Minnesota on September 9th. Obviously, will not be available to play Thursday at Tennessee. He might not have played in that game anyway because starters aren't going to play a whole lot. So no surgery necessary. Hopefully he'll be ready for the season opener. So all in all, fairly good news there.
Yeah, if I had to put a designation on him, I'd make him questionable for that Vikings game right off the bat. It's a quick turnaround for him. Other injuries, tight end Jimmy Graham returned to the practice field after dealing with a high ankle sprain for the last few weeks. Guys that did not practice are safety Pearson Prelo and tackle Zach Strief, both nursing knee injuries, and also linebacker Stanley Arnu remains on the sideline with a high ankle sprain. Two other guys that worth noting are, of course, the active PUPs, free safety Darren Sharper and linebacker Clint Ingram. Obviously, they're not going to play Thursday. It's looking more and more like both these guys are strong, reserve, physically unable to perform candidates, which means that they go into that designation to start the season, would miss the first 6 weeks of the regular season. That's probably the second scenario. The best case, of course, they'd be carried through on their 53. I don't see it happening, for one.
No, I don't either. Sean Payton did say that last week was the first really encouraging week from watching these guys work on the side, but they haven't been in the game yet. They haven't even practiced yet. Especially in Sharper's case, here's an older guy coming off major knee surgery. He may be better off missing the first 6 weeks of the game, first 6 weeks of the season, play in the last 10 and be fresher down the stretch rather than rushing him back in there. They like what they've seen from Malcolm Jenkins. I think they want to see him develop as a free safety. So at this point, I just don't see any point in rushing either one of these guys back on the field. So I agree. I think by far the most likely scenario is that they go on the PUP reserve list, I guess it is, and they'll miss the first 6 games. But that decision doesn't have to be made till Saturday.
And that is a situation that's going to force team officials to make some difficult choices here, because that's going to affect who's going to make this 53 going into the regular season. And I think fans should be reminded that even if Sharper and Ingram would be placed on the 53, the fact that they wouldn't even, they're not going to figure in a game plan for the Vikings anyway. They haven't been on the practice field. So I think fans just need to realize that these guys, if they stay with this team, into the regular season, they're not going to figure in for at least 2, 3, 4 weeks, regardless.
Yeah, in fact, Sean Payton addressed that after practice, saying that, the reason you would keep them on the active roster is because they might be ready for the second or third week. He didn't even allow for the possibility that they would be ready for Minnesota. So they're out of the equation, at least for the first couple of games, and quite possibly longer than that.
And what this means is, obviously, Malcolm Jenkins is going to be the guy going into the regular season at free safety. And this will open up a couple of roster, perhaps a vacancy or two for a linebacker, be it Stanley Arnu, who remains, nursing a high ankle sprain. He's still a guy that they like and they'd like to carry through. But it's definitely going to affect bubble guys as they go into the decision-making process this weekend. Remember, there have to be 2 cuts made by tomorrow. They're at 77 now. They need to be at 75 by mid-afternoon tomorrow. I think those will be relatively easy cuts. And then we also have an addition to the roster, which brings it to 77, is good old guy, defensive tackle Kendrick Clancy, and he's a happy fellow to be in camp right now.
Yeah, he was very happy to be back. In fact, he said just a couple of months ago he was about to sign his retirement papers, and he got a call from his agent saying the Saints may have some interest in re-signing you. So they put that on hold real fast because it sounded like this was a dream scenario for him. Of course, he played at Ole Miss. He lives in Oxford, Mississippi. This is home to him. He played here the last 3 seasons until he got hurt last year. So not only was he happy to get one last chance to continue his NFL career at age 32, but to do it with the team he would most like to be with and the defending Super Bowl champs. So he was practically giddy after practice today. And really a good guy. Good to see him back.
Yeah, it's real good to see him back. He was talking about the retirement possibility a couple of months ago, and you know, I think it's probably true that, you know, they are looking at him as a potential plug in the middle at defensive tackle against the run. But you know, I think it's also kind of an audition too to see where he is in the event that he won't make the 53, and I think it's still highly unlikely he will. But that down the road, he's a guy that they might consider in the event they need him. But it was good to see him. He weighs 310, and has stayed in shape by doing a lot of walking.
That's what he said. He does. He looks pretty good for a guy who hadn't played in a while. He had microfracture knee surgery. Was placed on IR November 7th of last season. So he's a guy who looked like he was actually in pretty good shape under the circumstances.
All right, there you go, sports fans. It's Les East, Brian Allee-Walsh from Saints Camp. Stay tuned to NewOrleans.com throughout the day and into the morning for any updates. And until next time, have a good day.